Good morning. Want to talk about a few things to help, again, more people understand, because a lot of people are still new to everything and they're not really grasping the basic concepts. They're more or less being confused with misinformation and a lot of other things out there. So we want to clear that up, or at least I want to try to help people clear that up. Again, I offer information. I don't offer legal advice or tax advice or anything like that. So I just offer information, try to help you understand, try to help the viewer, do their own thing. So we're going to talk about, estates, trusts, administration of those records, all kinds of stuff. That's really, they're all together. So if you want to understand why things are happening in the world the way that they're happening, the economy, the money system, all of that, it's all controlled by a specific group or groups. Most of us know this that are viewing this video. These are hardline facts, unless you're dead asleep and you just think it's absolutely absurd. Hey, that's your thing. However, the rest of us know that this is the fact. This is in fact the case. So, you have a right to be a country unto yourself, for the most part, okay, in union with other countries, which makes the sovereignty of the society. Okay, most people think that sovereignty belongs to you and me individually, but the way that it's set up is sovereignty. Yes, it does in a sense, but it's us collectively. Okay, so let's put that aside. Most of us know at birth there is an estate that's created. Okay, everybody says a trust. Trust is not created until a few days, few weeks later. Then the trust is created. This has been confirmed, okay, by the Social Security Administration themselves. Okay, it is created. Several days, weeks, sometimes months later. It really depends. But you can see when it was created if you have your certificate of live birth, and you can see when it was filed. Okay, the file date is the birth date of the estate, all right, the entity with your name in your likeness. Okay, the one that everybody calls the straw man and, the artificial entity and blah, 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 blah. So what is estate? Estate is really a conglomerate or a combination of all the property that belongs to a name, essentially. A person. And we all know that a person can be many different things. They can be artificial, be natural, real, not real. So the estate is all the property that belongs to that. All right. So let's think about this. If there's an entity created at birth, not if, there is an entity created at birth. It's not you. Okay. You created the entity. You gave breath to the entity, even though it's dead, sort of thing. Okay. You created it. All right. Everything gets attached to that entity as you move through this reality. Everything, and that's your Social Security number, right? That's why they ask for it, because everything is attached to that entity. So that's an estate unto itself, because all of the property belongs to the entity. It's the same thing with your living estate, although you don't own anything in your living estate, which is kind of a good thing. So everything gets attached to the fictional artificial entity. Yes, the all capital letter name that your Social Security number gets attached to, or your account gets attached to. Okay, that's the estate. Don't get it twisted. That is the estate. That's the estate that you have not reached the age of discretion yet to take care of. Most people say the age of majority. I disagree with the age of majority, only because the age of majority is simply the age to contract. And they make that a legal term of art, of course. But the age of discretion is the age at which someone has the ability, the responsibility of handling their own business, okay, handling the business affairs of the estate. That's the age of discretion. The age of majority just simply says you can contract. Well, sure you can. You can contract for the estate and all that stuff, absolutely. But the age of discretion is when you're old enough to understand how the business works, okay? And the business is your private business of the estate. However, you left the estate with the state. It's that simple. You abandon the estate. It's abandoned property. You know, so if you don't have a proper claim on it and you don't take control of it, you have no right to it. You got no right to go into court and fight for rights. You don't have any rights. Who are you fighting for rights for? Are you fighting for rights of the entity? You don't have any rights. They don't, you know, they don't recognize that. Those courts don't, they can only recognize your entity, and they can only recognize you as saying, I'm not going to pay the charges for the entity. I came here to fight. That's all they recognize. So for everyone that's out there trying to fight in court, okay, you're going to get what's coming to you. And that's why I see people all the time, oh, they're just doing this and they're doing that. And, you know, they're not listening. They're not following the law and blah, blah, blah. Well, you gave them the permission to do all that. They have discretion. They have discretion to do as they please in that court. You know, you're not old enough to handle, if you're going into court and arguing statutes, codes, all this, you're not old enough to handle the business yet. You're still acting like a minor child, an enemy, belligerent rebel. You're going in there to fight. That's what enemies do. They fight. You're not supposed to be an enemy. You're supposed to be at peace. So those concepts really need to be brought forward in our minds and in our being so we can understand how these things actually function. So again, you've got the estate. The estate is there until what? Probate, when someone dies. Then they probate the estate. Well, why do they probate the estate? You know, because if you didn't claim it, they got to go ahead and figure out who's keeping all the millions that are in the hidden accounts. And there are hidden accounts. We've got confirmation of that 3 ways from Sunday. You know, that's a private side account. You can't go in it and take cash out. However, you can get to a point where, let's call them dividends for lack of a better word, or shares, or, you know, you can get to a point where that is given to you. Okay, so let's put that aside, because I know everybody gets crazy about money. Everybody wants to be free. Everybody wants to figure out how to be a secured party and all that garbage. Forget that. You can't do anything without a claim to the estate, and you can't do anything without authority over the state, and you can't have authority over the estate, unless you hold a specific position, and that has to be declared, and it has to be made public notice. And you also have to do private notice, private, public. See, I look at it this way. There's private, public, and public, public. So there are some things that are private, public. For instance, a lot of people record their documents in Lamar County, Georgia, in a miscellaneous file. That file is not searchable on the internet. It's not a public searchable file in the sense that you can jump right on the internet and search the file. They don't have a search mechanism for it. You must have the book and page number of the specific file in order to search it. So that would be like almost like a private public record. Okay, it's a very good thing. That's why a lot of people use Lamar County, Georgia, and that's why poor Bill Hewitt is just, I'm sure, swamped. He even told me that when I visited him. He said, you know, all of a sudden this thing blew up on the internet. He's like, nah, I mean, I can't keep up, you know. So anyhow, got to have the records, got to have the records. You got to set the record straight in order to correct the records, right? Even in their system, like, they're not just going to magically correct the records for you. There are steps to take for that to happen. A lot of that falls on your responsibility, the age of discretion, your responsibility, not theirs, you know. So for instance, correcting some of the records, I at one point registered to vote like an idiot. Wish I never did that. That was years and years ago. And so I terminated my voter registration, okay? Because I don't want it on the record that I'm an employee voting for a new CEO. I don't want that, okay? That's not what I am. So I terminated my voter registration, and when I did that, I not only terminated it, but I made sure I did a FOIA request to get a copy of that termination to show that they in fact did receive it. This is very important. FOIA requests are really powerful and very important if you know how to use them. Okay, you're going to request information, but you got to be careful. It's got to be information that they have a lawful obligation to provide. You can't just ask them for any information. Now, when it's information specific to your file or your record, most of the time that has to be provided. So when you do a FOIA request, you ask them for your record, okay? And you should go online and you should look up the requirements for FOIA requests in your state or even the federal and see what they require, because they'll kick it back to you and say, you didn't do this, that, or the other, resubmit it. They may not even say resubmit it because they may just try to brush you off. But as long as you give them and resubmit it, give them what they need and resubmit it, you'll get an answer. Okay, so I got my FOIA request to the state. Now, they didn't certify it like I asked them to, but they still gave me their computer printout that shows my document on their computer, okay, and my signature on my document for my termination. All right, so I now have proof that I terminated my voter registration. That's a big deal. The other thing I did was I revoked my election to pay the income tax. Okay, revocation of election is important as well. I sent that out to them. Okay. I haven't requested a certified copy of that yet for a specific reason, because I already did a FOIA request on some other things I'm working on with them, which they admitted to me straight out they don't have the information that they're supposed to have to try to perform the procedure on me that they did. In other words, they didn't follow their rules. I've got the law that says they need to be terminated, and it's straight, simple. It's very clear. It's not ambiguous at all. It's very clear, and you're not going to find it in Title 26 in the U.S. Code because they didn't codify it. It's still in the public at large, statutes at large, the public law. Okay, and that was brought to me by a very good, well, what I consider a good friend and very intelligent researcher who's done some amazing things over the years. He brought that to my attention. Now I use it to go back to the IRS and say, knock, 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 I got 5 of you that need to be terminated, okay? Now, if they don't terminate them and they don't do what I asked them to do with the issue that I'm having, then I get to file a claim. It's an administrative process. I'm exhausting the administrative remedy, then I get to file a claim up to $1 million, okay? And there will be no argument in the claim because I've got their proof and their FOIA response saying we don't have what we are supposed to have. We don't have it. So you win, essentially. You know, they're like, it's not in your file. We don't have it. Well, it's a clear breach of their process. Okay, so anyway, again, administratively handling things. We're not going to court. We're not talking about court. We're not entering court. We're not doing any of that. I'm not there to fight you. I'm just here to ask you for proof of claim. And did you follow procedure? Yes, no? What do you got? Verification? You can't verify it, then you got nothing. All right. So we're talking about the estate here. All right. Not me anyway. However, I have power of attorney over the estate. Okay. As the general executor. Okay. Holding the office of general executor. That is an extremely powerful position. I keep telling everyone that, you know, argues about all this stuff, and you know, I've gotten rid of shit behind the scenes that would blow your mind. Everybody talk about, oh, the right to travel, and they pulled me over and they took my car and they did this, they did that, and I had to fight them and blah, blah, blah. We didn't even do that. Okay, yeah, they took the guy's car and all that stuff, but as soon as we hit them with, you know, stuff behind the scenes, gone, over. Judge said, you're the most intelligent man I've ever seen in my life. You know, here's all your stuff back. Have a nice day. Bye. $3,000 in fines and 3 years in jail right out the window. Okay, behind the scenes, Didn't even have to enter court. I mean, we did, that was merely just to kind of shake things up, but we did, after that, there was no court battle, okay? So administrating the estate is huge, but you can't do it without the authority. If you're not the general executor, you don't really have the authority to administrate the estate. You really don't. And it's really the office of the general executor. It's not even the general executor, right? You have to hold the office. The office is so important. So important. So you got to have your records straight. You got to create the records. You know, you got to make your declaration of status. You got to clear up the obligations, clear up who owns the property. And now that's the 3 categories of civil law, 3 departments: law of status, law of property, law of obligation. Once you do that, you've just handled them all. Okay, so you're clearly showing that you're of age to handle business. After that, everything gets done behind the scenes. And people go, oh, what do you mean behind the scenes? Well, it's very easy. If you're from the office of the general executor, you're appointing them to get the job done for the estate, because they no longer have authority over it if you in fact established it properly. All right, but most people can't wrap their head around that. They think they got to do all this hocus pocus and, you know, all this patriot shit they see all over the internet. You don't. There's a few things. Yes, I'm not saying that you don't have to do anything, but you don't have to do all this crazy bullshit that's all over the internet. You do have to do some very specific steps. You know, declaration of status, authenticate the birth certificate, accept and acknowledge it. Declaration of status. The declaration of status only has to be a paragraph. I mean, it doesn't have to be 20 pages of legal speak. That's ridiculous. You know, first off, nobody's even going to read it. My first declaration of status, yes, I borrowed it off of somebody and, you know, changed some stuff up and doctored it up, and it's like 40 pages. I look at it now, I'm like, oh, it's ridiculous. Wow, my gosh, what a newbie, you know. However, it's there. So I also amended it and did a short version just for convenience sake. So I amended it and cross-indexed it to that record. So again, you know, you got your declaration of status, first your authentication of, if you can get your certificate of live birth, it's really important. I know some states are blocking that. I would do a FOIA request, okay, and ask them to show you the law where you don't have a right to see that document, okay, straight to the health department or the Vital Statistics or whomever is holding that document. You're going to want to do a FOIA request to them, okay, because those states are fighting back by not giving the certificate of live birth. It's a very important document. For those that are foreigners, you definitely want your original birth certificate from your country, and you definitely want your naturalization certificate, okay. Declaration of status, appointment of general executor. I did a bunch of different stuff. I feel like the more I back it up, the better. I'm just kind of giving the essentials right now. Then administrative process, reaching out to the alien property custodians, which under the Trading with the Enemy Act, as amended by the Emergency Bank Relief Act, are the President, the Attorney General, and the Secretary of the Treasury. Also, I hit the Governor of the state and the Secretary of the state, the birth state. I hit them, those two, okay, with notices as well. All get administrative process, bam, 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 you got 30 days, whatever, blah, 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 you know, just basically asking them, hey, do you have interest in this or don't you, you know, and when they default, and then, okay, well, you don't have any interest, so I'm taking it. I'm claiming this. This is a done deal, okay? Then I go and I put my notice in the newspaper, the county of the debtor, which is the last known county, basically the birth county, okay? So I do that. At that point, I then file my power of attorney in the county land records, okay? I revoke any previous power of attorneys that may be express or implied, any government agents or anything like that that think they have power of attorney. We nip that in the bud, we revoke that, and then we put the power of attorney into the land records in your county. They will accept that. They will accept power of attorney. Some people are trying to attach a bunch of documents to that, and they're kicking them back, and they're saying this has nothing to do with property. Well, that's true. That's why it's best, in my opinion, to record somewhere like Lamar County, Georgia, where they will accept them into your private record file, public file, Okay, and then you can cross-reference. You can just say, well, you know, Superior Court for Lamar County, Georgia, book number, you know, 105, pages 67 through 120, whatever. You know, I mean, that's how I do it. I reference. Now, whoever reads that notice, and it's in the county land records, okay, whoever reads that has the responsibility to research those records. So if I notice somebody and I go, these records are here, you need to look at them, and they don't, and they proceed, not my problem, your problem, lawfully. So I do that. Now, again, I chose to put my estate into a private business trust, okay? That's my choice. That's what I feel I need to do and how I operate. Private trusts are so powerful when they're done correctly and when they're administrated properly, when they're operating properly. You can have a private trust all day long. If you're not operating it properly, you will get shot down. It will get broken through. Your defenses will fall, okay? But you've got to operate the trust properly. I see a lot of these people out there with these trusts, and they're, you know, oh, you just get the trust, and as long as you have this paper, you're golden. You know, that's not true. Anybody that's ever been attacked by a government agency or, you know, in the courtroom, let's say, or by the courts knows they will break right through that shit. You know, you've got to have it set up specifically, and you also have to know how to handle the public agencies with in your private capacity. But if you haven't corrected your status, you don't have private capacity. You don't even have standing to even do that. And if you don't understand what your private capacity is, you have less standing because you have nothing to stand on, because you're just throwing paper out that you don't understand how the whole thing works. You're just, so what standing is that? You know, you don't have any standing. You just have some bullshit that you bought off the internet. And they know that. They know that all day long. They know that when they start questioning you, watching your reaction. They're like, oh, they don't know. They have no clue. You know, and they'll just run you right over, you know, and then you get on the internet and you complain about how bad everything is and how these people are corrupt and all this stuff. And all they're really saying is, we're not going to tell you what you need to know. That's your job, which, you know, again, I get it. You know, yes, they remove the knowledge. Yes, no one tells us. Yes, they make it very hard. I get that. At the end of the day, it's our responsibility, though. So we need to do that. We need to take responsibility. So the records are huge. Operating is huge. I suggest people use the general post, okay, or general delivery. You get a lot of flack with that, all right? You get a lot of flack with general delivery. I know here in my town, where I just moved, they said, well, you can have general delivery one time. I was like, okay, thank you, I'll be back. Like, really? Are you out of your mind? Do you realize you just broke postal law by saying that? No, the guy doesn't understand. So I'm going to have my mail sent there, and when I go back more than once and he says you can't do this, I'm going to then show him the law. And then I'm going to say, if we have a problem, let's get on the phone right now with the postmaster in DC, okay, or your superior postmaster. And if they have a problem, we're going to go to their superior. And if you don't do it, I will do it. Who's going to be the one to take care of this here? Because I know I've got all the right in the world to have general delivery as long as I want, because I'm transient. Okay, I am not domiciled in any state of. So I'm always transient, and the domestic mail manual says a transient can use general delivery. And it doesn't have a time frame. It just says that they can hold your mail up to 30 days. If you don't pick it up, they send it back, return to sender. That's the only stipulation. There's no stipulation for general delivery on how long you can have it. All right, so general delivery is huge, okay? I use that address. It depends. Some situations I use a care of address. You know, if I don't want to go down to general delivery for a specific reason, or I'm not using it from the office of general executor, I put it in care of. And then I pick it up or I get it at that address, okay? So there's several ways to get your mail. But again, knowing your stuff knows that, knowing your stuff ensures that, you will be operating in private. If you don't know your stuff, you're not operating in private. Most of the time, you're jumping the line, public, private, public, but you can't do that. You're either private or you're public. And when you're being held to public law, you've got to know what public law is: statutes, codes, constitution, criminal law, civil law. That's all public. Family law is private. That's huge. Okay, family law is private. Why is that so important? Because that's where all the stuff is going down with your estates, okay? It's going down in family law. It's going down in probate, in estate law. That's where everything is laid out for you, okay? However, how do they make it look? They make it look like it's laid out for you in, statutory way, where you have to submit things to the court and so on and so forth. Okay, a lot of that's true. And you can open probate on your estate, all right, but not until you have a claim on it, okay? Not until you've done your homework. And I'm sorry, that's just not something that's easy, the concepts are simple, but the actual doing of it is never easy. It's never going to be easy. And that's fine. Just buck up and get your shit done, So once you have the claim on the estates, which is what I was helping people with on Truth and Trust, I'm going back to Truth and Trust, and I'm going to update things, revamp it, make it a little easier, give some offerings for donation to my ministry. Hopefully, I can help people out that way. You'd be more than welcome to look at my own processes, my own research, my own documents, things like that. You're more than welcome to do that. Once I get the site, reworked and stuff like that. So again, authentication birth certificate is huge. Changing some of your records, your voter registration, your tax status, revocation of election, your SS5. Okay, some of these are very important things to do. I've managed to do some really amazing stuff without a lot of that, just from the position, excuse me, of the general executor, the office of general executor. I've done some pretty powerful stuff. I didn't even have a declaration of status and all with that stuff. Okay, so does it need to be done? I say yes, or let me rephrase that. I say not exactly. I think you can get to a certain point with it. But does it need to be done to handle every matter? I think so. From my experience, yes. The records need to be done. They need to be set straight. You need to provide them. You need to have the knowledge. You need to stand, So again, birth creates an estate. Well, there's an estate created at birth. It does create a trust after birth. Okay, not at birth. Usually either a few days or a few weeks later, there's a trust created. Okay, I've said this before, and people clearly, they don't hear, they just hear that I said there wasn't a trust created at birth, and they freak out. It's like, did you not listen to what I said? There is no trust created at birth. It's created a few days later or a few weeks. Some people even a few months. It depends on when that record was filed. Once the record of birth is filed, then the trust is created, okay? But not until then. So the entity, the straw man, the dead thing that has your name on it, has a different birth date. Your birth date is on your certificate of live birth. Its birth date is on there as well as the file date, okay? Some people have the file date on their birth certificate. If it's on there, great. Then you know the date of the birth of the straw man and the estate. All right. So you have all that. It's stop making it difficult. It's simple. What's difficult is administration. How are you handling your business? All right. And I say this all the time. I go over the same points over and over and over, because you'd be surprised how many people still don't get it. I can say it till I'm blue in the face, And they want to run out there and do all this statutory stuff, and you know, I'm going to fight them in the court and I'm going to win. You know, knock yourself out, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to get knocked out. You fight the largest war machine on earth, you know, and you're doing all this, you know, legal hoop jumping and gymnastics and cartwheels, and you're doing all that crap, and they're just, you know, wiping right over you. Oh, technicality, oh, technicality, oh, technicality, and they just slam you right down, because you'll never know all that shit. Never. Now, they don't even know it. They just know when they have to do a little research to shut you down, they do it, and with ease. The estate gets handled administratively in the private. Once someone is appointed, especially a judge, is appointed custodian, okay, or fiduciary, or administrator, all the same thing. Those three, basically all the same thing. It's something that someone is appointed to do for you in trust, okay? It clearly says in American jurisprudence they have no more discretion. So now they don't have discretion over the technicalities and all that crap, okay? So once you do this, you know, in private, it's a different ball game. You know, you're now on a level where they have a ministerial duty to you. It's no longer a judge with a judgment. It is a ministerial duty to administrate the estate, period. Now, how are they going to know what to do if you didn't tell them? Okay. Now, this doesn't work, guys, for private commercial entities, corporations, the things you owe your bills to, stuff like that. They're not going to go in and settle your accounts personally on your bills. That's a whole different ball game and procedure. We're talking about protecting yourself from any agencies, government, anyone that's trying to attack your estate in a legal matter. We're not talking about paying your bills, okay? That's a different, again, you have contracts there. The estate created contracts. The state can't interfere with those contracts, so they can't go in and say, hey, we're paying the bill. They can't interfere with that. Leave that stuff for now. We're not talking about getting your bills paid. I'm actually sick of people talking about getting their bills paid. You know, this is a much bigger nut to crack than getting your bills paid. This has much more effect than getting your bills paid. Once you get to a certain point, yes, your bills can be paid by you and the money that comes to you out of your account. I know people that have gotten there, okay? Trust me, I do. I can't disclose how that works because it's private. I can't come on Facebook and start telling you how to get through the door. Okay, I'm not putting myself out there like that. I've already got a target on my back. You think I'm going to put it out there? No, but yes, it is real. It is there. I know people personally. Okay, firsthand experience. Confirmed. It's there. Okay, but how you reach it isn't going to happen until you're responsible. Period. End of story. We've already been told that. You know, responsible means learning how to administrate and function properly in public and private. All right. So you got to be responsible. You got to take these steps. You got to get there one step at a time. Now, I will talk about it privately, but it will be by private invite only. It will be in private type settings. It won't be on Facebook. All right. I myself have not gotten to that point yet where I have access to the account and have them cutting me checks. Not yet. I got time yet, and I'm okay because I'm in no rush. I don't care. You know, I'm not after the money. I'm not after the money. You know, I'm after setting those records straight. That's key, and that has to be done first anyway. So you can't get to one without the other. So all this stuff that everybody's, throwing around the internet, bonds and this and that, man, you can't worry about any of that shit, any of it, until you've established your status. You have no standing, So do yourselves a favor, man. Stay in the private and stop trying to go in and fight in these courts. It's never going to happen for you. It's never. The other thing I get a lot too, I want to throw this out there, is proofers. Everybody wants proof. I want proof. I want proof. So let's use our brain here. Do you think that a private matter can be proved on the public record? No. It's never going to be on the public record. It's never going to be. You're never going to see proof on the public record. When a case gets dismissed or dropped, it's usually a nolle prosequi. It's some sort of excuse why they will dismiss it in the public. So that way, no one sees what exactly was done. There's many of you out there that have already been in courtrooms, and when you go in there and you bring this stuff up, they empty the courtroom. Why? Because it's private, and you're trying to bring the private into the public, and they're going to beat the shit out of you for it. You dumbass. What are you doing? Why are you in here? You're not supposed to be here with that. You're supposed to be out there contacting here privately. It's that simple. I've done it so many times. Proof. You're not going to get proof. You're not going to see it in the public. I really don't care who takes my word for it. I'm just happy I know what I'm doing. The only reason I share with everybody is because my excitement for what I've done. And again, I can only share up to a certain degree. I can't get too far into it because it's private. And I can't put that out there in a public forum. I mean, I've already been, through hell and back doing that kind of shit. And I swore that I wouldn't do that again because I realized my mistake was stepping into the public with the private. So I'm not going to do it. So we're going to be using tools like truthandtrust.org and things like that to be able to teach people, and also to create private space where we can teach more thoroughly, what the principles of everything are, how things work, what it means to be responsible, that type of thing. Okay. Again, we're not the only ones to do it. There's plenty of people out there doing it. There's a ton of different remedial type patriot processes. You can buy them all up if you want. The fact of the matter is, if you don't understand what you're doing, none of it really works anyway, because it's not the paper that works, it's you. So if you don't work, people go, oh, does it work? Does it work? Well, I don't know if it works. All I know is either you do or you don't. Either you know or you don't. Language is huge. This is all built on language. So if you're not studying or looking or referring and researching into the law dictionary, when you have a question of the language, or even when you think you know the language, you're doing yourself a huge disservice by not understanding the language. All right. When you understand the language, it's not as complicated as you think. Okay. Because once you understand the language and the principles, the maxims of law, the principles, everything's layered on top. Everything's layered on top. Okay. Now it all starts to make sense a lot easier. That's how I've done it. When I get in the law dictionary, I look up a word. I'm like, well, there's 3 words in here I don't understand. So I thumb through and I look for those words. And there might be 2 or 3 words. I might spend an hour on one word. One word. But you know what? By the time I'm done that hour, I've learned so much about law and the meanings and the principles of law based on the fundamental definition of the word. Then that leads me to other words, subjects, study materials, right? be it in statutes at large, be it case research, be it statutes and codes, you know, constitutional things like that, treatises, law reviews, whatever the case may be. I now understand what the hell they're saying about the subject that I looked up in the law dictionary. This is all part of administrating. You know, it's knowing your business, man. And if some people say, oh, I just don't have the time, I'm trying to survive, I get it. You know, I had a son, single father, you know, full-time job, no help, really. I mean, I had some family and stuff that were like 2 hours away. But, you know, I still came home, got my son taken care of, and sat on the couch till 3 in the morning with my computer open, learning everything, back up at 5, you know, 2 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep, back out, do it again, come home, do it all over again. So when people come to me and they say, well, I just can't, good, then you won't. Don't bother me with it, because I don't want to hear it. You know, I really don't. So anyhow, that's it, man. That's all I got on estate trusts and, you know, administrating and all that stuff. Again, a lot of the same stuff I always talk about. We're going to go over this over and over and over and over and over. Really do your research. Look into probate law, estate law. That's huge. Just start studying that stuff. Get your law dictionary. Make sure you got your declaration of status with all the elements. Get your certificate of live birth, your birth certificate. Get that stuff authenticated. You know, revoke your election to pay the income tax if that's what you choose to do. If you choose to change the record of your voter registration, terminate that. Whatever else you can do. The driver's license and stuff, don't worry about that at the moment. Okay, that's a big nut to crack. And once your status is corrected properly and you go through the proper process, those IDs will be corrected for you. Trust me. You know, it will. You don't have to believe me. I don't care. I'm just letting you know from my experience. Anyway, do that stuff. Enjoy your day. Today's my birthday, August 21st. So I'm going to go have a good time. All right, y'all. See ya.